Portarlo,
Here.
Mr. Pascal,
Here.
Ed Dunwire here, Jeff Moore, he's coming. A question mark for now. Mr. DeChiro,
I'm here.
Joe Paradise,
Here. With all present in the quorum, we'll move to our first item, which is approval of the meeting minutes for January 24th. Anybody have any changes?
nope.
They were very detailed. Here.
Yes.
With that, I'll call for a motion for approval of the minutes.
So moved.
In a second.
So I'll second.
Thank you, Ed. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we're going to turn the floor over for our annual audit review from Ken Claflin from Claflin Associates. I know there's a couple areas we have to discuss a little bit, so
Yeah,
I'll turn the floor over. And
If it's okay, I'll do what I normally do and just kind of go over what the highlights are.
Yep.
First, if we go to the auditor's report, it is an audit. It's the highest level of service we offer, basically stating that these financial statements are fairly stated in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. There are other services out there, reviews and compilations that are lesser services. This is the highest level of service we offer. The second thing is because it is a government organization, it's subject to government auditing standards, which are a little higher than regular audit standards in that they require that we look at internal controls. And in this organization, obviously, it is so small. What we've decided to do is we look at 100% of the transactions. We look at 100% of the balances because it's just as quickly, just as efficient to do that. And lastly, it is an unmodified opinion, which is a clean opinion, which is what you're looking for, basically stating that there are no exceptions to the fact that we believe these financial statements are both fairly stated and in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. If we go to the balance sheet, you can see it's a very complex balance sheet. There's 3 line items. There's cash, there's property held for investment, and then there's our net position, which is obviously our equity, if you will. Normally when we look at organizations, we look at liquidity for obviously for being liquid and for strength of the organization. In this case, both of those things, obviously, we have no liabilities and we have $300,000 in cash, so we're very liquid. We have no liabilities. Our equity is 100% of our assets, so we're very strong. The only downside I'd say that we have is that the trend has been in the past few years that we've had losses. And that continues. I think from speaking to Rod in the future that may change and what's going to happen in the future. But right now we have had a trend of losses, small losses, and we continue that in this year as you move to the next page, which is the statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in net position. And you can see, we had $35,000 worth of revenue and $59,000 worth of expenses, and basically a $25,000 loss. And as I mentioned on the outset, I don't know if the meeting was open yet, but one of the things we have to recognize is that I made no adjustments to what Mike has given us. So that these financial statements are what you've already seen. Whatever you saw in January or the first time Mike published after December are the same results you're seeing now. So there's been no changes to that. The next page is the statement of cash flows. And what the statement of cash flows does is it tries to reconcile if we had a loss of $25,000, what happened to our cash? And as you can see, our cash went down $27,000. So there's not a lot of differences in our case between cash accrual, the cash and the accrual method. Obviously, because we don't have any receivables or any payables. So pretty much the cash method is the accrual method in this case. Moving to page 7, it goes over our significant accounting policies. On note 1, the important thing to note there has been no new accounting policies adopted and no changes to the policies that we've had. Note 2 obviously explains the industrial bond revenue and no transaction issues, and although those are issued, they're not on our books, and that we do have $2.8 million in IDA bonds outstanding, but obviously they're in the name of the company who borrowed the monies, and that we're just a facilitator of the transaction and get paid a fee for that. Note 3 is our cash, basically indicating that our cash was either collateralized by collateral, which is required by New York, or FDIC insurance, and that we're in accordance with that provisions of the law. Note 4 goes over what we're holding in for development and at the various costs. As you can see there, that again has not changed from the past year, so those have remained similar, if not similar, exact to the prior year. And finally, note 9, basically stating that, as you probably all know, we have a line of credit available for $1 million, which we have not used anything on in a number of years, but it's there so that if something big comes about, we can access that line of credit. And the LDC is a guarantor on that as well. When you go to page 10 and page 11, that is because it is in audit in accordance with government auditing standards, that they require that we do an audit report not on compliance, on internal controls. And that report had no findings. Obviously Mike does a great job. It's not that complicated. I think he reports back to the board. The board has access to everything and everything's transparent. So we're very happy in that regard. We did also issue a letter, and by the way, none of these are issued final because obviously we're waiting for the board to approve those today. So that's why you see blank dates in there. And after today, Michael signed the rep letter if the board approves, and then we'll actually issue these in final. But so our required communications with the board or the audit committee requires a couple of things that we communicate. One is that the accounting policies, as I mentioned, haven't changed. There's no new accounting policies. Estimates in the financial statements, there's really no estimates in these financial statements. Well, I shouldn't say that. There are estimates in these financial statements, in that we estimate that the fair value of the properties that we're holding is equal to or in excess of the properties we're holding, that there's been no impairment to those properties. Also, the disclosures, there's nothing really that's very sensitive in disclosures. We had no difficulties in performing the audit. Talking about corrected and uncorrected misstatements, as I mentioned, we made no adjustments to the financial statements, and we passed on no adjustments to the financial statements. We had no disagreements with management. The representation letter, as I mentioned, it's very important to us, the representation letter, because it means that both the board and Mike have reviewed the financial statements, reviewed the compilation that we did of the various numbers and the presentation, and are accepting that of the presentation as your own, because it is your own, not mine. So that's really it as far as that goes. We do have two findings that have continued from the prior years. I think in the original draft, there was a third finding on board minutes, but those minutes were able to be found. So we're going to take that finding out. But there's two, continuing findings, if you will, on the valuation of donated properties, that we have to have some procedure in place that when we get donated properties, and I think there were some at the end of the year, this year, that I don't believe the deed had been transferred on those, but we have to have some method to value that. They should be valued at fair value, but we want to be very conservative. In the past, we've really, and not just here, the LDC and the IDA, when we've gotten properties, we've overvalued them because we had contracts to sell them. And those contracts seem to always fall through, and then we started writing them down. Right. So, I would, in my mind, the policy would be to have Tom, the assessor, look at it, give you an estimate, a range of values, and pick the low estimate. And that's what being recorded. And then the other thing is the impairment of properties that we hold. Each year we should have a policy that, again, I think it's the assessor, because he's the one with the expertise, and that he looks at the properties that we're holding. As you can see by that list, they're very minor dollars except for one property. That most of those were either given to us or we had small costs incurred. But so in a lot of these, if we didn't know what they were, we assigned a $100 value just to assign a value to a property. Just to make sure we keep track of it and know that it's on our books. So those two findings are consistent with prior years. And I was under the impression that was being worked on.
So when you are finished with this, we are going to pass two resolutions dealing with exactly what you have brought up. So I don't know how that is handled, if that can then be taken out of the report.
Well, I think what I'll do is I'll put in there management follow-up that it's been resolved.
Yes, we can add the policies to the audit and what have you. So
that's terrific.
Yes.
Now,
well, I feel stupid we missed it last year.
The LDC to copy it. And that'll be good.
They meet again next month. I got that.
Yeah.
Take one, pass it down.
Does anybody at this time have any questions for Mr. Kaplan?
No.
Not the most exciting of your accounting work, I bet.
But it was nice to come back, because I was at a job this way, I could go right home.
Well, there you go. Well, good. Well, as always, we thank you.
Thank you.
And,
you.
we will make these and get these over to Mike to make those adjustments.
And Mike, you can forward those to me when you get.
Okay.
Thank you.
No, I'll take
Thank
it.
you.
Thanks for stopping by.
Where you going?
Well, I kind of lied a little bit. We're going to shuffle around the agenda a little bit, but. So at this time, nobody has any other questions regarding the audit? Pretty cut and dry. Instead of voting on it, we're going to move Steve along here, and Steve's here to give us a recap of where we are with the DRI and possibly some potential, something coming in.
Yes, I hope that by the time we got here today on the 20th of February, we would have more concrete information. The DRI, as some of you know, at least Rod, a couple of you were at the meetings, we have completed the work of the local planning committee. The local planning committee has forwarded our recommendations to the state, and we're waiting for the state to come back and tell us which projects are actually funded. They told us to expect that announcement sometime between December and February. So tick-tock, we're getting to the end there.
All right.
So we are just waiting as patiently as is humanly possible. But once those things come back, I think that it's very likely that some of those funded projects, the private projects, are likely to come and seek IDA support, whether that be a long-term pilot or just mortgage recording costs and sales tax. So I think that you're likely to see some of those come through. There were some projects that scored pretty high that were privately sponsored projects. And I think that you are likely to see some of those funded. I don't want to name check them because I don't want to, tip my hand to what I think. Yeah. But beyond that, the other things that are on the horizon that are likely to come looking for pilot projects are, as you're aware of, the 2 RFPs, the one that's already been issued and the one that is likely to be issued. I've started to get some calls. I went and had a conversation with Rod about some of that today. My expectation is those people, I mean, they're businessmen. It's their job to come and ask, and it's your job to evaluate it. But I would expect those 2 to come forward with it, as well as Uri Kaufman is moving forward with the project on the power station, the unfinished building at the mills. He's going to be applying for a Restore New York grant, so do with that information what you will. But he's going to be seeking that funding, and I kind of told him what I thought the appetite might be for such a pilot, but again, it's his right to apply for something if he wants to. So he's been in touch with me a couple of times in the past couple of weeks, and I would expect that you'll be hearing from him on that one as well.
Is he still talking about restaurant type thing in the facility?
No, that was years ago. Yeah.
And he's been working on the power plant for a couple of years now, if you drive by it. So, but
yeah, I mean, I wish I had.
The key is Mr. Kaufman has to apply
Yeah.
an application. It cannot be over the phone again.
I'm trained.
So I hoped and expected that I would be able to sit here today and talk to you about which projects the governor had announced funding for, given that we're almost at the end of that 3-month window, but I don't have it yet, so we're just waiting on them.
Good.
Okay.
Well, so early in the year,
Yeah.
I think it'll be a busy, good year for us, but
I have no comment on that yet at this time. Just, I think we'll all be very happy with the result there.
good.
Yeah.
It's
Very good.
still
Oh, yeah.
alive.
Yeah.
What was your question about the community center?
Yeah.
Anything else at this time?
I'll be at some county meetings next
No.
week about that.
Very good.
That'd be great.
Okay.
All right.
All right,
Appreciate
thank you,
your
Steve.
time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, so let's do the resolutions now. So to follow back up with the audit, as we know, there were 2 items that were mentioned, how we set the value on property that we acquire.
Yep.
So we'll do them one at a time. Kate, you want to go
Sure,
over your fine writings here?
sure. So
Bring out the highlights.
we'll do the acquisition policy
Okay.
right first. You'll see in there a copy, and maybe I'll back up just really quickly. I put all your policies in these binders for you. These are the old ones. We're going to want to take a look at these. And part of what you'll see in here is the acquisition policy that was also in your packet. And there is a 1-line change on the second page near the bottom. to reflect what the auditors were asking us to do. It should be underlined in your copy. So that when we do get donated properties, the procedure would then be to go to the auditor or the assessor and have him give a value to the property, that we would then book the property on our books at that value. So that was the change that, they had been asking for. So what's before you is a resolution to approve that change to that policy.
Do we want to pick up on what he just said, a range, and we pick the low end of it, or we don't need to be that specific?
I left it very general because there's probably going to be, a couple times that the assessor will take a look at it, depending. So I left the language as general as possible, that it's just going to go to him, and whatever, you all discuss, that's just part of, that discussion. So that's what's in there, in the packet.
So we approve that, and then we'll give a copy of that to Ken, and then he'll put his footnote on.
We got to give it to Mike, and then Mike will give
Yeah.
it in with the whole submission.
So with that, I'll make a call for a motion for approval of changes to our policies on property acquisition.
Make a motion?
Thank you, Mr. Dudwire. Thank you, Mr. DeChero. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now on to the other one.
All right, so this resolution is, if you recall, you had a discussion, I think either at the last meeting or exact, about getting a designated office for the IDA outside of City Hall.
Yep.
And so Pete was able to get some quotes on different, office rents locally and what those might be. And we also took a proposal from Harmony Coworks. As you know, our chairman, Mr. Dion, owns Harmony Coworks, and as such has potential conflict of interest pursuant to the general municipal law. Even though it's only $250 a month, like he's not going to get rich off of it, it's still a potential conflict. So he's recusing himself not only from the discussion but the vote. And I redid the resolution today that you have before you, and I know Pete printed off, and I printed off extra copies in case you hadn't seen it yet. We did put the law in there, what sections of the law that this pertains to, and that when a public officer, which Rod is, and all of you are, when you designate your office, that's an exception to the conflict of interest in the law. So if you're designating your office and Rod happens to own that facility, that is one of the exceptions, and he's allowed to do that without violating the law. So I wrote that into the resolution, not only to help you make a decision and make it clearer, but also that the public is aware that, there's no issue here and that it's an exception. Anyone have any questions on that?
Kate, I just had a question on page 3 of 6, and it might be because this is a standard duplicate. It says $525 a month plus tax, like
Oh,
here
on
it's
the
$250.
contract itself?
Yeah, on the
Okay.
agreement itself.
Okay.
Probably just because it's a rollover of a standard monthly one, maybe.
Are we doing one contract and then splitting it, or are we doing a contract for us and a contract for the
It has to be separate.
It will be separate. Okay.
Yeah. It'll be one space, but it'll be two separate.
So to be
contracts.
clear about what that is we're sharing the space with the CLDC,
Correct,
which is why it's $250,
Yes.
not the full price.
yes. So what page was it?
Page 3 in the middle, it just says that our rate would be $525 plus tax.
Oh, yeah, okay. So we'll put 250 on that. Okay. Any other questions or discussion
I did share in the email my due diligence, and I genuinely tried to find someplace that was much more cost effective than this. This is the most cost effective place we have there. So it offers a number of things that I think we can benefit from. We do get to utilize the space as a group. There's a meeting space in there, I think it's called the Zoom room. right? Which is similar to what we're sitting in right now. I think offers much better lighting, much better technology,
Better furniture.
better furniture,
Shade.
a place to host as well. I propose that we potentially move this meeting to that space as well. So
I agree with you.
I don't know how everybody feels about
I like
that.
it.
Does the owl come with us?
The owl is ours. So maybe we could, do we need to make a motion about moving the meetings to that space?
No, because part of the resolution is you're designating that if you approve the contract, you're designating that as your principal place of business. And so therefore, all your business would be conducted on the premises. And then when
Good.
you notice your meetings going forward, you obviously would notice it for 50 Multnomah, not City Hall.
Okay, so I'll just make a
Awesome.
note of that in the minutes that everyone's in agreement to move those.
Very good.
Starting
And
in
that will
March.
take effect on the, I really do like this move. However, yes, the executive committee
Okay.
for
Oh,
March,
okay.
we will have there if Harmony's is.
Do we have cabinets and stuff to move?
Well, that's the other piece too, right? I'll be storing the stuff that I have here that I can't access, that I don't have really any other place. I think City Hall is asking me to move this stuff regularly. I have nowhere to go with it. We got to store it.
So we need to find it all.
Any concerns, discussion?
I'm sure that some people are gonna take exception to it,
Well,
but we
if,
just, you can tell the leader by the number of arrows in their back.
But if it
Perfectly
makes financial
legitimate and
sense and
makes
it's the
sense to
best
do.
move, it
So
is what it is.
if we take a few critical comments, so what?
oh, it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Guarantee
Matter
it.
what you do.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
We don't need a motion, do we?
Yeah, gotta approve the agreement. All right, so,
Laura, you were the second.
Yes.
Got it.
all in favor?
Aye.
Get me one for the other two, yeah,
Okay.
please. The other thing quickly, I'll just ask, I'm gonna give you some homework. But back to your binders, given the nature of what Mr. Napier just said about potential projects coming in, I think it's important that the first document we focus on is your UTEP, your Uniform Tax Exemption Policy, and also the application. We did make some changes, if you remember, a few months back at the application. We might want to give it another look at some point, but the UTEP is going to be very important. So, number 4, yeah,
4 is exemption, but,
yeah, the uniform tax exemption.
okay. But the application itself,
I don't know if is the application in there?
I
I can't
don't
see
see
a
it.
darn thing right now.
we'll correct that.
Yeah.
I believe you got a new
Um,
space.
If not, I can email that one out.
It's under
'Cause
orange. It's the
It is?
orange tab.
Is it? Okay, I thought so.
What, really? I don't
I
have
forgot I
that.
can speak.
So take a look at this, and I know for some of you, it might be the first time you're really actually reading it. But take a look at it, and I'm gonna review it as well and see if there's anything we should update. But it'll be a good review of, what your policy really is, and what types of projects that you want to fund. I know at some point, we don't need to get into it now, but we talked about housing versus industrial versus all these different things. So this is the policy that you'll want to amend should you make some decisions about, what types of projects that you want to do.
Did you already do that?
No, you had the discussion, but we didn't do any amendments to the policy. No.
Implemented any of that?
Right. So that's why I have gone back to this model and figured we didn't have a central place, and I'll make you one too, I didn't even think about it, to have the policies, at least for no other reason but to review. And then once they're done, we can just pull them out, and that way you'll have it at your fingertips.
And I will scan these in and upload them digitally to our workspace.
Yep,
So you can access them digitally in
Yeah.
our new workspace.
good idea.
Joe
Very good, thank you.
put together a lot of material. Do you still have any of that? Did you review it?
Yes, I do. Do you want me to resend it?
Well, I mean, that gave different models for ranking and scoring
Yep.
and all of that stuff, and I thought that was important
Okay,
for us to
all right, let me,
consider.
We didn't approve all that.
no, we had a discussion. We made changes to the fees in the application, if you
Right.
remember, but we never really got around to amending the UTEP.
I absolutely
Oh,
thought
we
we
did.
did.
Really? Because I haven't seen anything from Joe's office, and I didn't do it.
Yeah, because I ended up approving Joe's firm being paid for the work that they've done. We reestablished the 10-12 UTEP and everything to go along with it. We
So where
changed
is
our-
it?
That's a good
I think we have to
question.
reach out to Joe.
Okay.
I know,
All right.
we spent hours on it. I know we voted.
Yeah, I mean,
on
I
it.
know we had a conversation, we
Yeah.
had several conversations
Get it
about
before,
All right.
so,
Ask Joe if he has it. Maybe it's
Okay.
all bow,
Yeah,
wrapped
it's all
up with a nice bow ribbon on it.
Yeah,
so for the board to know, Joe Scott had reached out to me and he is formally retiring, effective the end of, I believe, April. He is, in one of the funniest lines he said, he's only going to work 4 to 10 hours a month until the end of the year, which he said his wife still thinks is the funniest thing he ever said. But he said his kids just laugh at him every time he says it. But with that said, so Chris Canada, who I have worked with in the past, from their firm, will be taking over. Hopefully we'll get some work for him to get going and what have you, but Joe's a loss. He as Kate did, took me in during a crazy time and got us through it. It was,
yeah,
so,
yeah.
you know, you never forget your first and your second, so, first council and your second council, so they,
Good for Joe. That's
they
exciting.
had to help a very naive person get thrown into a very unique situation.
3 boards later.
Yeah. So, 3 boards later, he's done with this all. So, the next, I think we want to talk about the appraisals, right? I know it's not on the agenda, but I think we should.
Yes.
While we're all together, yeah. So, as you are aware, we have the appraisals in for everywhere now, I believe, right?
Not jumped.
Okay,
I have a couple of questions that I answered for him today.
okay. But we are getting closer to Ontario Street. We do have all that. I don't know if anybody has any comments on the appraisals, and then I think we want to seriously discuss getting the RFP together and,
Yeah,
Move forward
so
on
you
it. I
saw
know
the
you guys were
appraisals,
talking
you
today
saw the
about it.
numbers.
yeah.
That was just, that's just for the 2,
So
No,
there's 3
sure.
numbers in there. There's
right.
a number for 178, 180, and the commercial space. I think respectively 87, 78, and 78.
But what about the 1 acre that's sitting on?
It's all included. That
It's all
87
subdivided.
includes all of that.
Okay,
Well, you look at that metal building, Ed, right? And most probably wouldn't take on that structure and they would just.
not that one, but
Right, so you're
the
just
other
looking
2
at
are
the
candidates
land.
for rehab.
And all the land is is a slab. So now to even get to shovel-ready
Okay.
project, you gotta remove there's a lot of work encompassed there.
And again, I could be completely not remembering correctly, but I swear that Debbie had been in there, like, if it's gonna be a rehab, it's gonna be expensive. Like, I don't think,
Your appraisal's almost just for the land, because the figure, the dwelling, it has to be
shaped like
completely
it was
redone or
like-
has to be knocked
There
down.
was,
It was vacant for years.
there was water, like, I don't see it,
Are you
like,
talking about the structures?
Structure.
the structures, everything.
The metal structure or
Yeah.
the 2?
Oh, the homes,
No,
the
the
2
homes,
residents.
Surprisingly, I
Yeah,
was,
the homes
I
are-
let
Those are
someone
appraisals
in.
are high, I thought,
Those appraisals I thought came in pretty good.
Me too, I thought so too.
Well, right, but a lot of times people don't understand, like, he's not evaluating if there's mold in there, and he's just looking at the
Right.
conditions. So
Right.
I'm just saying, if anybody proposes a rehab, they need to get in there first before they propose it, and
Yeah.
with people who know what they're doing and look at it, because I just think a rehab is gonna be awfully
Now,
expensive.
you mentioned an RFP. I thought that the 2 homes, the wood structures, we would just put them on the market for sale. Do we need an RFP on those residential structures? For the Golden Crest site itself, the metal building and the land.
Well,
I
first off, if
understand
we're doing an
RFP.
RFP, I say you do it for all and see what comes back.
But do we need an RFP or you just
Well,
list it with
here's,
an agent?
here's the thing. If you go what they call a negotiated sale under the Public Authorities Law, you have to notify the governor's office, the comptroller's office, all this stuff. You have to wait 90 days, like it's a process. And you have to show really a good reason why it wasn't put out for RFP. It's unique, that kind of a thing. You can do it, but
It's not.
I don't usually recommend it because it's,
And is there any greater
there could be
benefit to
some
it, frankly?
objectives, they could object to it, there could be questions,
So
In a
it's not
perfect
one of-
world, I mean, you could piecemeal it out, but you'd almost hope somebody would come in and see the RFP and take on the whole project, demo it, clean it up, put something substantial there instead of just remodeling those old dwellings.
Historically, I've dealt with issues where that method was used prior to all of you and was contested on a number of times. Not by folks in government, but by potential developers who felt that we were choosing one over another.
Wasn't
So-
consistent.
No. So that's why I really don't like that. I don't like it in general, but, that's really for something that's very unique, right? And somebody has, if it's going to be a franchise or, something that only that particular developer could do, let's say. Or the land is unique in that it's only for a certain purpose. It's not really, and it's been challenged before in this municipality and others. So I don't like to use it. Because generally, that's the one exception to the
Bypassing the
RFP.
RFP.
Yeah.
And there's no, in all honesty, because one of my perks is I get to see everything from 360. There is, conversations I had with Steve today and with Pete, there's commercial interest on those funds. So it would probably be to our advantage to do an RFP on it to see the best offer that's going to come in.
Well, you're supposed to, the way the statute's written is getting the most competition as you possibly
Right,
can.
right.
And the only way to really do that is to advertise it and put it out there. When you're just simply choosing, like,
I thought it was kind of nice
a
there.
broker comes back and says, I want to buy this, you're actually getting to pick who you sell it to, whereas an RFP is more of a, here's the project,
Right.
here's all the things that go along with it.
Good.
So, there is an exception that was widely used under a different administration, but it didn't go well.
So the RFP will make possible individual. There's three separate, there's two wood frames and the crest, so the
Correct.
RFP will, it's all available. Pick and choose.
Yes.
Yes.
They can tear it down, they can save the two, whatever they want.
So how?
I don't know what I can say from my conversation with Steve today, I guess I should have asked him, but, there's legitimate people that are reaching out. I was pretty pleased with the names.
On
we had.
Ontario, Remsen, or both?
Ontario.
Okay.
And I personally have
And Pete has been working with somebody.
a bakery, which is what
Awesome.
we'd love to be reborn there.
Oh, yeah.
And he's interested in all of it. And he wants to refinish those two properties, bring them back to life. And use the other structure as a bakery.
Is the
So how
planning
close are
board
we
going to
to-
be able to
Yeah,
take any?
how close is that to happening? And what are you looking for?
Only as close as our RFP, because we do things by the book here.
RFP.
Well, no, I mean, I was saying the planning department, like, because any proposal's got to go through planning.
That's
and-
Of course,
Yeah.
but that's
So-
not any different than,
Yeah.
They
they-
walked
No,
in here
but
and
are we
wanted to
gonna-
buy it.
Do we have a director of planning yet?
oh, that's way over my pay grade.
Yeah, so no, that's what I'm saying, is we're going to put a bunch of stuff out to bid.
We
and
can't be
then-
delaying the process because we don't have a director.
No, I'm not suggesting
No.
that, but the whole build
When I
is
say
going
Who
to
we-
be,
oversees that in the absence of a planning director?
And that's a great
the
question.
board really does, but
Right.
you need support, like,
But,
Yeah, who feeds them?
Right.
but in the meantime, how soon can we get an RFP out now?
It's in case court for review.
I probably will review it by the end of the week. I sent you the two addendums.
I did get
yesterday,
that. She
and we'll
sent
be
me the
good to go.
addendum, so it's really,
Remsen is out, Ontario Street.
as a matter of
90 days.
fact, I can give you the timeline I put on it.
Yeah.
And I already put a timeline into it.
Thank God that sun is going, holy, right? Blind,
Still shows up from it.
yeah. I got it right here.
Ontario draft. Oh, actually, I still have it open right here in my Excel. So my goal is to issue it by March 4th. RFI period will close on March 22nd. I'll answer questions by the 28th, and the bids will be due by April 9th.
Awesome.
Are the bids pure revenue, or are there expenditures like that we owe with respect to that?
What do you mean?
I don't understand the question.
Well, I guess what I'm asking is like the property that the IDA owns on
Yes.
Ontario, is it free and clear, or are there other like debts owed on it?
Well, we still have to work out the final situation with TCB
Right.
regarding. Or
That's
is that
still,
just junked up?
No, I think we own it, it's
No,
just
it's just
junk.
junk.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
So
I guess that's what I was asking, because
We
I know
never
that was all
sold it.
wrapped up in
That's
a kind of a
done.
mess.
Because I always think
Clear.
there's still a swap, but there's no swap.
So within the RFP, there's talk about a period of time in which we expect them to have or do any work. There's a talk about finance and a percentage down and all that jazz. So
Okay.
that'll be, yeah.
Because we haven't had much of a revenue stream of any
No, and it's a
kind,
real
so it'll
concern.
be good, you
I
know.
mean, you don't want to go out and give out pilots to give out pilots, but
Right.
we are an operation that does need
Right.
revenue to come in too.
Right, but we can't panic, and I think we have good
Right.
things and
Yeah.
good irons in the fire right now.
You know what's probably not in the UTEP is those annual fees we talked about.
You were gonna check on that. didn't you?
Yeah, I'll talk to Joe.
She's gonna wake up at 2 o'clock this morning. You know what else isn't in there?
It's
Yeah,
exactly
and you
what
and I are gonna get a
happened.
text.
Exactly what
Give your best thoughts.
So this is like a double, because we sell the
about to get
property,
very
and we
busy,
may well get a
hopefully.
pilot
Right,
request on the
exactly.
property,
Sure.
so.
Everything we've talked about, dreamt about, and waited on for 3 or
Right.
4 years is all.
Building a
about- We're gonna
foundation
go
now.
from 0 to 60.
Yep,
You know, we certainly hope, with the fire sites, you know,
Mm-hmm.
we're expecting at least one. Hopefully there'll be others. But I'd be happy with one, better than none.
Well, when we're
And-
done talking about Ontario, I did want to ask if we had anything on that, but finish.
I should be
Ontario.
clear too, that I did change some of the parts that I pulled out of that RFP, talked about the commercial, the residential development, right? Because we do want to lean towards the commercial, the retail, the entertainment, restaurants. So if that's something you don't want, you should,
You talking about Remsen or Ontario?
Ontario.
both.
I think we go commercial till you can't go commercial, you know?
One thing I did notice on the appraisal, all three are worth what? It was a total.
247.
Yeah, okay, that's pretty close. I think we paid almost 3, but that's,
Oh, I didn't think that was that much.
yeah, because I was looking back, because I did the closing.
Yeah,
It's close,
okay.
like, and that's okay, but I just wanted to point that out. You might want to,
Well, absolutely. Well, we can do the same with the fire sites too. We certainly want to see a better result.
yeah, this
than
is
what
your,
we just
this
held.
is your floor.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because frankly, in my head, I've counted on some of those numbers as a revenue source, especially on the fire sites, even with after we cut our expenses and split with the LDC. You know, the number I think that would make me say, okay, should leave some money there. Anything else?
Sounds good. So are we gonna talk about Remsen?
We're busy here.
There's nothing to talk about right now. It's out.
Any nibbles yet, do we know?
We can't say.
Yeah,
We can't say.
It's that period.
we are in the silent
We are in
period.
that period.
Yes.
What about the boat? You ever call that guy or?
The boat.
Bazaar, the property on Saratoga Avenue.
You mean the parking lot?
The parking lot for the mini mart,
Where the boat is?
Yeah, where the boat is.
power tank.
I'm moving it over to 330 Saratoga Street.
339.
330,
Please get it right. So when the police get called on us.
There's a thing there, it's cars for kids, where you can donate your cars.
Yes.
I could try and contact them to see if they want a boat.
There's also a boat for kids. The problem is no engine. There's not a lot of value in fiberglass.
Well, it's free, so, okay.
So,
It's really the title.
Yeah,
Cash in your cars doesn't want
right.
Or if you just put a sign on it, do not touch.
What about the dwelling that's on the
For
land
sale,
that we own, but we
$50
don't own the
for
dwelling?
Ask Pete, he had a great
Yeah,
conversation.
so we'll pick this up too, what Pete's gonna fill us in on his, conversations on 339 Saratoga.
Was it the last general meeting or the executive meeting that I mentioned I would reach out to Anthony Vaccarelli of 339 Saratoga, and I did. Nice man. Very fond of Anthony, but he really had no interest in dealing with me. He thought it was a legal matter. He feels what he's doing is valid and justified. Really offered no solution to it.
Am I thinking the right one?
This, yeah, and I was, I really just tried to emphasize to him that we're trying to take a pragmatic approach here instead of taking the source, the route with our counsel, and maybe there's something he'd like to pay for it and try to do it the right way moving forward. And he just had no interest in dealing with me or talking to me about it, and he thought that it should be an attorney issue. So I got an email from him to communicate. I put that in Kate's hands. She's doing title search, and we will move forward.
I approved the $300 expenditure for the title search.
Which is why I
We
want to
can't pick a
park the
fight if
boat
we
there
don't know
since
what
we
we're
own the
fighting
land.
over.
Might as well
Bingo.
park it right in front of that overhead door.
Very
Hey, Pete,
nice.
is he from Waterford?
Take the
by any
boxing
chance?
gloves next time.
Did you know?
I tracked him a lot online, and he's in Latham now. But, when you do a title search or a deed search on Albany County with him, about 75 deeds come up. So he's in real estate, he's a broker. Yeah.
Good times.
Well, look, let's resolve it. We're finally taking the steps necessary. And without getting into litigation, hopefully, and all that crap, we can,
And we'll clear up the boat situation.
yes.
So it's a win-win all around.
You guys think I'm kidding?
No, I don't know. I kind of like it. All right. Anything else? I know we had a couple things break in the last few days, so.
Can somebody spell my name right on this thing?
Yes, we'll take care of it. Sorry about that.
Oh.
I expect it to be done by tonight.
It's only a legal document to live forever. Well, this was a very tidy, well-run meeting. Well
Well,
done.
it's on the resolution that we did. It says
Oh.
Jeffery.
Oh, Jeffery.
Oh,
So with record-setting time, I will call for a motion for adjournment.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Laura.
I'll say.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. And we are out of here. We will gather again.
He just said Jeffrey.
seconded by Jeffrey.
Jeffery.
So